pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, we have an action-packed agenda today, a lot going on, so thank you for all being here. Let's do the roll call.
President Everard.
Here.
Vice President Wentworth.
Here.
Treasurer Zimmerman.
Present.
Secretary Bauer. Here. Trustee Brady. Here. Trustee Lady is absent and Trustee Zurich is absent. Or we have a quorum.
All right. So we have a workshop.
Do have a workshop, and we are going to take about the first hour or so. Michelle Kelly's here from Upland Design, who has been leading our efforts, and of course, from Liz Dufford as well from that. So I'm going to turn it over. They're going to share in their own PowerPoint and then take us through to really assess where the board is, because a lot's been done since we were last together. So let me make sure that co-host here, Michelle, wants to get logged on.
Beautiful.
Morning, Congress.
Stop sharing.
Let's see, share first.
Good to go.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Again, I'm Michelle Kelly. So excited to be with you all again, and all of you. Yay. So before we get too far in, let's just remind ourselves the whole scope of this wonderful planning project and where we're at. There we go. We're right here in stage 5, visioning and strategic planning. So we're going to do some visioning tonight. You guys have already helped do some of that early on, and we are building upon that. And then in our engagement section down here, all the engagement pieces, we're right here with the Board of Trustees. So you can see how far we've come, and we have a little bit more to go, but it's going well. All right, tonight we're going to review the key themes and ongoing challenges and opportunities that we talked about last time. And then we're going to workshop some of those issues, the challenges, and the opportunities that we as your planning team are seeing to get your feedback. We're really going to say, does this work for the Conservation District or does it not work? And you guys are going to help us decide that. There's lots of good ideas. All right, so these key themes, you see A through F, again, the order is not important. It's just, that's where we're at. And A, protect, restore, and expand natural lands. We're going to review a little bit about that. Improve access, connectivity, and inclusive recreation. So we're going to talk about what that, what are some of the things that we could do to make that even better. C, enhance visitor experience and recreation opportunities. So lots of fun ideas, and we're going to pull things right out of that community-wide survey to be part of this. So we're going to remind you guys saw that community-wide survey stuff. I'm going to bring some of that data forward to remind you again, like what are some of the things that the community actually said. And then we're jumping down to F, increasing revenue diversity to advance agency mission. Okay, so those are some of the keys. Now, these are ongoing challenges and opportunities. So in a lot of ways, these were not new to the conservation district, but we're trying to bring them up so we can work on them. So there's some repeat things here. So first, creating appropriate systems for dealing with existing structures that do not have a current use. And then we jump to C, we're going to work on desire to expand the recreational programming and without straying from the mission, not a practice. Let's make sure we're going and fitting things with the mission. D, that aging infrastructure in need of replacement, renovation, or renewal. And we're going to talk about some ideas on that. And then G, the continued limited funding. So some ideas on that. So, right. So let's start with this first one that is the core, their mission, right? The middle, protect, restore, and expand natural lands. This is right out of the community-wide survey, the near consensus as the need to preserve, restore wildlife habitats and to maintain existing conservation areas, trails, and facilities. So you can see right here on the top boxed out, 82% said extremely important. Another 8% said very important, meaning 90%. Another 6% said somewhat, so that's 96%. So we know this is really important to the McHenry County community. At the same time, it is difficult to manage in a way that the staff would like to. There's 25,800 acres of open space, and around 4,500 to 5,000 get touched through management with the national resources each year. Now, of that 25,000 acres, there's another breakup. There's some in ag, there's some that's water, there's some that's parking lots. But we know that there's more acres that they would like to be able to do more management with to really meet that core mission. So the management team themselves estimate there is a 5-year backlog of identified management efforts they would like to see completed to improve sites based on current staffing levels. And this down here shows some data, which Gabe was wonderful to share with me. So all in one place, so you can kind of see here, there's about 2,500 acres here that are being worked on with prescribed fire treatment. 643 acres with seeding, brush removal, 88 acres, 720 of mechanical treatment, and then 1,100 in chemical treatment. So we this is just 1 year, looking at 1 year. So this kind of breaks down all those different things they're doing. Some acres might even have 2 things happening, might have one and another, might be a prescribed burn and some chemical. So there might be even some overlap. But that gives you an idea of what's happening on a yearly basis. So as we look at some of these other things, we're looking for ways that can bring in additional funds that will feed into that core mission. Also, we're looking at ways that maybe we want to reduce maintenance on some other things. And again, reducing maintenance means maybe there's more funding for that core mission. So we're going to start with something that really touches the community more than anything, though, which is improving access, connectivity, and inclusive recreation. And that's giving people of all abilities out to your sites. So over the last decades, the district has expanded public access sites to provide great coverage for the public across the county to its sites. And we can see that by looking at your 2008 comp plan that looked at just, access and recreation and comparing those maps to where you're at today. So that's really a big win. Just look at every single region that you have is being covered now by open access sites. Next, most public access sites include ADA accessible public parking spots and some kind of paved or accessible trail to a shelter, a restroom, and a short path to maybe a kiosk. In most cases, these meet federal and state ADA requirements. The grass hiking trails, which are in many, many of your sites, they make up the majority of trails, do not meet the federal and state ADA as accessible routes. They're very easy to get to, and there are lots of them, and that is a huge win. because that's what people want. They want to be able to get to your sites and use them. At the same time, there are people that, whether they're with a stroller or have mobility issues because of arthritis or an injury, that cannot use those trails as easily as others. So, and with that, what other recreation elements could we do that might make the sites more accessible? First, these are ones that we've seen all through your sites that are, accessible. Being able to get to these things as a family and recreate, or a horse here, being able to park or get to a kiosk. There's a lot of that. And then there's opportunities at other sites of being able to add, say, crushed limestone trail. It doesn't have to be paved. This, as long as your slope is not too heavy, this is accessible and meets the federal ADA. Fishing piers, canoe kayak launches, interpretive areas, and one of the things that we're thinking as a potential goal is one accessible trail loop or site in each region that is accessible. We're not too far from that now. But this way, maybe those trails, when we say, okay, we want to make sure we're touching a wetland, a woodland, and a prairie. So people of all needs can be able to access those three major categories of natural areas that are found throughout McHenry County. So those are some of the ideas, and we're gonna, this really great, let's keep it now. We're gonna have a little survey that you guys will get up, and we'll see a repeat of each of these things, so you don't have to memorize it on the boards. And then we have a little survey that you can fill out. Yes, I want this. Yes, I want this. I think this fits the conservation district. And what else? What have we not thought of or not shared here today? What are the other things? So this was our first zone. So we'll have one board for this zone here. All right. Our next one, enhancing the visitor experience and recreation opportunities, and the desire to expand recreation programming without straying with the mission. So again, going to some of the data that we've gotten from the community-wide survey. Okay, I'm not going to read all this. I'm going to say these questions here, we've turned into a slide that's easier to look at. So let's just go to that. But that was the real data. Just so you know, it came right from the real data. Those questions, 3 of them were built items. And that's improved access for water activities like kayaking and canoeing, signage or amenities of exercise and workout suggestions along trails, and designated nature play areas for young children. So these 3 were built items. And so built and programs, but built first. And 77% said it was extremely important or very important for the canoe and water and kayaking activities. While our signage, we only had 48%. So it's important to note that, but still that was the lowest of these 3. And then the designated nature play areas for young children was 71%, which we saw as pretty high, knowing that not everybody has a preschooler or a young age children in their household, but grandparents often can see those things as benefits too. So nature-based play. All right, so the next 5, these are all more programmed rather than, it might mean there's something built, but it also might mean there's something you already have that you can use to create that. All right, so up on top, day-long or weekend arts and crafts workshops, weekend multi-night camping experiences. So kayaking, hiking could go with, say, this camping experience. Local history education programs, and these are the question itself focused on geology, native flora, fauna species, indigenous populations. Okay, and 75%, that was one of our higher ones that people said it was extremely or very. Cultural events, demonstrations, arts and crafts fairs with vendors, and finally wildlife outreach and education programs, bringing live animals to schools, community groups, and events. So these are many of those pieces that, and with the percentages next to them, of both very important and extremely. And then a little bit more on recreation. This is some of the open-ended. There's so many open-ended, responses that we pull some of that out because it does give us some anecdotal data that someone was willing to write something in. So one of the key things, this is for people that took the survey that had a rating of 6 or lower on their satisfaction. So then a question would pop up and say, what could make it better? And 13 of the 68 respondents, so you remember you got 540 respondents altogether. This is only 68, so it's a very small, and 13 of them, but 30 of them said more signage and maps and more information. So I'm just gonna say it is the low-hanging fruit. It's something to consider. A lot of the others, again, these were so small. And I don't think you're gonna fix the ticks and bugs just yet. Okay. We're gonna start with those.
They want more ticks and bugs?
Let's not go with that one. So, but this is just an important, little bit of data there, on some of those anecdotal write-ins. And then this next question, was also, talking about programming. So interest in age-based program activity. So this one's just a little different, but another way to ask about programming. And this one, not surprisingly, younger adults under age 45 and those with children expressed the most interest in the youth programs. And I'm gonna again give you a much bigger slide rather than reading small things. This is, ignore the 41 that got stuck on there, but these are our answers here. Programs for older activities, internships for programs for teens, summer camp for youth and outdoor adventure, youth camps for winter and spring school breaks, and preschool and early learner nature programs. So 4 of these of the 5 are geared towards our young people. And one, the programs for activities in older adults, which got 74%, a huge amount, of all of them. This was our number 1. These do go in descending order. This was our number 1 of all of the extremely and very important together. So it makes a big difference to know that you have people that want these programs. All right, so next, increase revenue diversity to advance the agency mission and continue limited funding. So we're gonna tie this section right now to tourism. We know you've always had a good relationship and it's very strong with tourism in the county, and that people come here to see your sites, right? So Veteran Associates, who's on our team and doing some of the economic impact, they helped us identify what are the reasons that people tour, take tourism, take a trip to McHenry County, or even leave their house within McHenry County and come to your sites. And these are our top ones. In fact, you have large contiguous natural areas that support high quality recreation. Extensive trail network for hiking, biking, equestrian use, and nature walking. Water access for paddling, fishing, and wildlife viewing. Campgrounds that extend visitor stays and increase local spending. State nature preserves that attract ecologists, birders, and conservation-minded travelers. And interpretive centers and programs that draw families, school groups, and regional visitors. So those are some of the top reasons that people come. And then we go back again and ask, this kind of tied together is, do people want to pay for these things, or do they want to pay for things that are outside of just a hike? Anybody can go on a hike for free. There's so much to do for free. And the first one we asked is facility rental fees for parties, meetings, or other events to cover facility staff costs. And 92% said that was somewhat or very important to that. They approve of that, in essence. Increased permit fees for camping to cover program and site management costs. And 79% said yes on that. And then new or slightly higher fees for existing events for educational or recreational programs. And we have 70% here. This question could have asked lots of other things, but what we see here is that people are saying, yes, if there is something they want to do or rent or be a part of that is above and beyond, they're willing to pay for it. We have a very strong, we're willing to pay for it. And in the planning world, one of the things that we talk about when we talk about programs is covering your costs and your future capital. You know, what does it cost to turn on the electricity, to run the program, and to manage the program? And then what does it cost to make sure that facility is kept up? And that's when you start thinking about recreation programs, you want to make sure that you're not losing money, because that's not the goal, right? But you're covering your costs and giving a good value to residents and something they might not otherwise be able to get. So talking back to that tourism again, there are two main types of tourists, our day visitors and our overnight visitors. Day visitors spend money on food, retail, and recreation services. And that food and retail is generally not what you're doing, but recreation services can be when they fit your mission. And then our overnight visitors, lodging, camping, multi-day recreation, food and gas, again, lots of things that build the county. And that's why you have this wonderful tourism relationship. But also, one of those things that maybe could be a part of what you do to keep money coming in a positive way. So visitor demand says these are some of those things that we want to tie. National and regional tourism says close to home nature escapes, wellness, and restorative travel. Experiential education tourism, wildlife and birding tourism, and family-friendly outdoor recreation. So these are kind of these big categories. And what can be potentially done with those? So these spenders, we want to look at the data of what they would spend on. They like these things here in experiential tourism, active participation, immersion, meaningful engagement with place. So like learning about the place, learning about the history, learning about the geology makes it immersive. And that also ties to what you do. Hands-on learning and authentic local culture. And then motivated by distinct expectations. These are some of the things that can really tie together. So hands-on, maybe it's crafts, maybe it's understanding, you know, how to even care for the land. Culinary and local food, outdoor recreation, cultural events, heritage interpretation, and wellness. And oftentimes pairing these things together. So who is actually doing this out there? What are the examples? This kind of all sounds like it's up here. So now we're going to give you some real life examples of how this is happening out in public and some private sites. First, Starved Rock. If you haven't been there, I hope you go soon. Starved Rock is I've been going to since I was a little kid, and the lodge itself is beautiful and amazing. The IDNR does not run that. They have in essence, a developer that are concessionaire. I say that very close to you. Thank you. It's there.
Concessionaire.
Thank you. Concessionaire that runs it. So they put that out as like a bid, and then someone does that for many years. And the IDNR does not run it. But money goes back to the IDNR, and Starved Rock, although we could not put our finger on the numbers because that is private, it is thought to be actually making money and doing well. And they have built onto it. And right now they're spending money in their trails, which is really nice to see. So what do they have? Lodging. They also have inside the lodge. They also have cabins outside. They have camping. They have restaurants, a gift store, and then of course hiking, bird watching, and nearby other tourist spots. Private developers have developed nearby Starved Rock because it is such a destination. This one is far away, but I love that all the money that this tourist spot goes back into the people and the land management. This is Takeda Lodge. It's part of the Nitimbuk National Park. It's in Australia, and it is run by an indigenous tribe. So they have, in essence, a corporation that runs it, but the money all goes back into land management, employment training, and community programs. But people spend a lot of money to go stay here beautiful lodge. It's not huge. It's like 15 actual rooms. So this is not humongous, but the acreage is big. And they have lodging, cabins, camping, restaurant, day tours, river cruise, canoe trails, and you can get a massage, which can be a really nice add. All right, so now we're gonna go take it down just a little bit from big buildings and go to glamping. Kids already have campgrounds. But this glamping is really popular. People love this. It's just a step up. You don't have to have an RV, and you're not usually staying in a tent unless it's pretty nice tent. And the one I'm showing here is Idema Explorers Camp, is part of the Ottawa Sands County Park System. I've been here, it's beautiful. It only opened in 2025, so it is new. And they decided to kind of dip their toe into, this was it was a sand mining site that turned over into, I have chills just like thinking about it. It's so beautiful. And we've been going to this part of Michigan for years, and you couldn't go into this site. And now you can walk trails in it. And they built this, and there's both these little kind of tree houses. They have these, you can see on the top. On the bottom here, this is the restroom building for all the yurts. This is inside one of the tree houses. So they have 5 yurts, 3 tree houses, and 10 tent camps. And then they have 1 set of restrooms that are using it all. They have some fire pits and some propane grills. They don't want you to bring your own grill, and you can park really close by. But it's surrounded by 2,400 acres of beauty. So people come here and they just stay and enjoy. And this is a map just to give you an idea. This is the Grand River where it sits on, so you're really close to water. Here are those yurts. The yurts are in various sizes. They have like your whole big family could come, or they have a smaller size for just 4 or 5 people. All right, so a couple other luxury camping. These are also in Michigan. This is in Fenville, and it's called The Woods. They have 4 different style of cabins, fire pits, a group bathhouse, which you can see a picture of right here. It's not huge. Maybe there's a bathhouse that can be upgraded even. But inside it's really fun and has this lodgy feel to it. And this is making money. This is something that completely private money put in, but they are, profitable business. The Fields in South Haven is another similar one, but we take, this one is a notch up because they also have a pool, a breakfast spot, and a supper club dining hall. So this is their dining hall. It's pretty simple, but their tents include both real sort of platform tents. I think of as like when I was a Girl Scout. And then they have these a little bit higher ones that are actually little cabins that have a bathroom inside. So kind of some different level, but when you have the dining hall and the breakfast, and then you can stay the night and decide to just go to the supper club. And so it kind of takes that up to another level.
So Michelle, the question, did these districts or reserves go to the business to ask them to do it, or did the business come to the park area to say, hey, we could do this? So which way did the communication?
So this one here, the agency, the county park system, Ottawa County Park System did themselves. They're very much like a county park. They're like a forest preserve district. They're a little like you guys. They have a lot of nature and they try to have big sites with a lot of nature and then some recreation. So they did this all on their own. They're keeping all the money. They're running it all themselves. They've made it mostly so that you don't have to interface with a person like an Airbnb. Get a code and you get in the door. Okay. Now these other 2 glamping ones, these are privately on private land. They aren't public. But I'm showing you like examples of it's a much, rather than a lodge, it's a much easier, cost-effective way to get in. And I think it's something you've looked at in the past. You would have to decide if you want to come that concessionaire or if you want to run it yourself. That's the 2 things. But moving towards an Airbnb type of, and I mean that by saying not needing a lot of staffing, not needing a lot of interaction can make it more affordable.
Thank
you. Sure. Okay, and then how about an event or a wedding venue? This is Four Rivers Environmental Education Center with the Will County Forest Preserve District. This is located, it's Four Rivers. It's located where there's a confluence of many rivers in Will County. So it's beautiful, beautiful setting along the river. But they actually took an old house and puffed it up, I'll just say, made it bigger and created this room for multi-use. And people can rent it. You can rent it for $3,000 for 10 hours. That's so you can have your wedding here, you get 10 hours, full-time setup, close down. If you want more, you pay more for extra hours, but that's the rate. And when they're not using this, this part, it can be closed. So it doesn't take ongoing staffing as far as that goes. This has been open for at least 10 years. So, and they have a shelter nearby, which is great for family reunions, or you can get married. And then public-private partnerships for tourism. So you probably don't want to get into the business of giving massages, but maybe that's a time of a private, group, or using day trips, farm to table, heritage preservation, wellness, hands-on learning, and outdoor recreation can all be tied to private vendors that come and do those services and but bring money back to the conservation district. And then finally, event fundraisers. You're familiar with this. You have a few of these already. What are other ones that would bring tourists here to spend money and even be a fundraiser for the district? And people come year after year and enjoy that. So triathlons, music events with food trucks, food and wine events, hiking tours paired with lunch or dinner, and canoe kayak races are all things that can be, and there's probably a long list of others. But when you partner with somebody, you push off the things that aren't in your wheelhouse and you try to find a way to get more tourists to come and use your sites in a positive way that fits the mission. All right, so this is, I just threw all of these together. It will be on the on our survey as well and on the big board so you can see it. All right, so I think we got through 3. We have 1 more and then we can get up and walk around. This next one is creating appropriate systems for dealing with existing structures that do not have a purpose. So I want to just be really clear to define what that means. If the district is using a building for something, anything that is not in this category. If someone's living in it and you're using it, it's not in this category of not being used. Also aging infrastructure, I'd say. The district owns lots of buildings, but to quickly quantify, 65 structures have been identified for removal. John? Yeah, all right. I think it says 60, but it's 65. And 30 structures are yet to be determined. So they're on the list to figure out what's going to happen. You have to think that when you buy land in the future or acquire it through gift, that it might come with structures. So having a system in place and knowing that it's not so challenging, there are potential things to do. That's why we want to create some kind of system to make it easier. So a couple other things. Many of your buildings, except for restrooms and shelters, almost every one of your buildings has been adapted from some other use. You all are very good at that. As far as, and you take really good care of your buildings. Our architect is right over there, Jeff. He'll be standing at this board, so you want to talk to him at all. And he said you guys are doing a great job taking care of the buildings you're using. So it's this sort of other group, like what can we do with them and what kind of system? And one other potential suggestion is to have a building maintenance improvement system to help you with your capital planning. That might be a really good add to something you're good at to make it easier on yourselves. So that's for your existing buildings. So again, going back to the community and what they said, this is a question about what's the most important. And our little protecting and restoring historic buildings is at the bottom. When of all of these things, at the same time, 52% of people said it's extremely important or very important. And another 20% said somebody. So I think it's important to understand that they might be some structures that might be worth saving. And then, of course, there might be something. So what potentially could be in your toolbox to make decisions on these things? This, I'm not gonna read these, but I'm gonna go through and give you some, a few ideas with pictures. These pictures are, how about repurposing a building for public use? Again, you guys are very good at this. But what if it also was income generating? This is a building that the Forest Preserve District of Kendall County owns. It's on the Baker Woods site, and it's part of the Ellis Equestrian Center. And they have weddings, showers, and all kinds of events at this building. They did a retrofit so that the doors met ADA, and they have bathrooms that are ADA. But a lot of the buildings they were able to keep the way it was, and you can see it has a little bit of a home look, but it works and it generates income on this site. All right, another idea is private residential use. Maybe you have some buildings that are like this pictured one, you know, have some beauty and character and are historic, but you don't have a use for them. They might make a good home. There's a system, they call it the Resident Curatorship Program that is out on the East Coast and in the Baltimore, Boston area. And they keep properties and they have long-term leases to residents who live there and sign a lease to care for them. So the county still owns them. And one day a year, they have to open them for tours because they're historic of some nature. But the people that live there, and you know, we all know how much housing is, they care for it. And that is the payment for being able to stay there. And they do things like tuck pointing, put on a new roof, and really, you know, make it their home. There has to be, you know, nuances and all kinds of, you know, agreements, but this is a program that they have done with 48 properties, and they've leveraged 11.6 million, according to their own data, in outside funds to care for these buildings. So it's an interesting idea. Maybe relocate the structure. This is an 1847 schoolhouse in Plainfield. The nonprofit Village Preservation Association, which is just pretty much a local neighborhood group that likes old stuff, said, we'd like to save this. And the owners of the building said, well, you can save it, but not on our property. So they were, the VPA, the village, which I'm gonna admit I'm a member, so this is why I know a lot about it. They asked the school district, this is part of our history. Would you put this on your land? We will take on the care of it. We will restore it because it had become part of a house and it got moved to the district offices, and this group raised money and it took 10 years to do the full restoration. But it is fully restored. This is the inside of it. It's beautiful. Architect donated their services to make sure that it got done. So this was a great win to relocate a structure that people wanted to see saved, but it just didn't belong where it was saved. It wasn't gonna work. And then maybe document and retire. Sometimes a building cannot be saved. In this case, this is the Hatch Plaza house. You can barely see it right here, but it was at the entrance of Plainfield, and they, the Will County Forest Preserve District had decided it needed to come down. And it, so the Village Preservation Association came to them and said, we'd like to try to save it, and did a complete review of it and said it's not savable. But because it was important, the house got documented in a historic preservation way. So forevermore, photos are always in the archives of the inside and the outside of this house before it was demoed, and the foundation was saved. And an interpretive sign was added. So it was an important house, but it just wasn't savable. And so this was a good way to document that. And that could be a tool in your toolbox to be able to say not everything can be saved. Sometimes history is important enough to document. All right, and so, yeah, here's your mission statement. Back to the beginning, so, we're gonna pass these out. And, put the boards up, the 4 stations are those kind of 4 things. And then you can ask Liz and Jeff and I, and of course, your staff any questions. Okay?
Michelle, how much time did you want to give? Because it's a 4 to 6, so 15 minutes to go through this process, and then we wanted to invite 2 our directors of the foundation that are here this evening to join. Wow.
Okay.
Well, I think one. Makes sense. Yeah.
It's so old.
Michelle, did you have an organization of how we want to just count off and have them start so they can rotate, or how do you want to? So they can go to different boards.
I think just sort of, you guys all split up, I'm not, you don't have to come. Just
Alright,
find a
so
different
find a board and
Don't
make sure you get to all 4 stations.
It's all for, and we really want you to fill this out, so you have to give this back to us, okay? You can take a copy home if you want, you have extra.
And we're Atlantic.
All right, so, the line of question. And so, just looking for you guys, and so like for this one, that was kind of our, as we look to, improve access to connectivity and consideration. Which of these do you think should be voted on the comprehensive use to improve that? And if you missed anything, you can list that out, check all of the above. Is there really no, like, which ones these things are? So we don't write anywhere and. Yeah, you should.
Okay.
Versions.
So
These need to.
It's like, oh. Yeah, I wonder if that helps the office. That site is. I'm not, I put that like, trying to create no, I went. Right. No, that's fair. I'm not there. Yeah, I'll get. Thank you. I don't know what She's not. I love Rita. I think it's kind of holiday. So we just try to take all the things like, there's an exception and national. There we
But hopefully, if you're around it, it's otherwise. You're gonna be.
From all the way across the county, we go to
All right.
You know, the things that we're gonna look at and definitely, what are some of those areas?
Oh, no, my fingers scary.
Well, I didn't know that they were interested. I just think that they were interested. I know they're for first.
What are some of those? That maybe those are.
Well, there was no panic on my mind.
Oh.
Everybody else. I just do it now and I'm like, that's-
Yeah. So even we're doing.
All the things that we want to do.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Right.
3 months. I'm not just wasting that.
Well, everybody was kind of coming summer, but now I kind of nice to be here, so.
Oh, yeah, I almost threw that out there, I guess I would have gotten a no.
So this one specifically, I can explain that here, but just if we would expand.
Well, I actually saw that.
You know that we should have more based on the survey and.
Identifying the gap. Means that. Yeah, first of all, there's a shot, program thing. And more for things that makes that. Oh, right. And.
These are easy because it's not a large investment.
Yeah, they do talk about the impact.
It's just the program focus.
That's what
Yeah, some of them maybe they're we kind of looking for, right, but maybe the investment is small. I'm, well, you know, I just didn't use them.
That's why I don't know. I like providing this additional program. I have a bunch of like, right, I really subsidized $500 in there for the way. And we're. So that.
All right.
I love that. It's what I want, you know, but don't want to. Oh, I was trying to relay that I. Oh, I'm saying. That way.
And I think, you know, one of the things here where you're located is that, like, when people in Chicago, and that's why I was saying, like, you know, people out there, they don't have a lot of. Yeah, so everything is going with Jen, I know he's right, and it's kind of right, they always had. You know, people like, yeah, we're not sure, you have to not for all you COVID. Well, I mean, which one?
No, I just. So much. It's. Yeah. That's true. Out there, it's like short term.
But I don't know. Yeah. Really like draft, I don't know. And really. Our draft there.
Definitely a big environment for sure. No.
Like somebody.
No, I think. Well, the other.
This is not, you know, hotel.
Yeah.
This is like.
So,
It's.
You know, when I'm coming back, it's like, go ahead, so.
It's the buildings that they actually, oh, that's the one. Are those, they demolished or?
And one station.
I'm not sure.
They're just small, much smaller.
Say that. I think there's a part.
Much better shape.
Yeah.
Much smaller.
Yeah.
So expensive.
It's.
They actually did. Today, yeah.
I would never.
Like, so. Was a lot. I was sure that.
You know,
They got a lot, you know, a lot of-
Work out.
You have some.
Like a style.
And yeah.
Yeah, I got it. So.
Well, suppose it, you know, the 500 card. They were a big part of that. You know, I'm gonna go to school.
Oh, we're actually finishing that. We're gonna start.
What do you say, nature play area? You saw the picture, but I don't.
Yeah, so if you think about, it's, you know, it's like, they started the way, but it's not gonna be the same. It might have, no blogs, but that, or, you know, manipulative play. You know, I don't think, but it's very, you know, yeah, water.
Or maybe one feature that like a pond.
Yeah.
I know. And in the building. It's very, like related.
It's
And they, and then, you know, a couple of weeks would come up and stuff back around so that, you know, please get a file and all that stuff, so. It's range, that nature, like,
Well, thanks for helping.
Yeah. But,
Yes.
right, yeah, absolutely.
And it's all along.
That's just my suggestion.
There were 60
They have one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You do both sides. It makes Yeah.
Yeah, I would. I'll give it a drop. That's something.
In terms of. I think.
A small person should really should read it. So you're going, it's very busy, so.
Yeah.
Connecting with you and.
I've been traveling a lot.
I don't need to call right here, it's very.
Stand up running is great.
So, you know, and, yeah. Yes, right.
Yeah, we're, you know, in some reviews, I mean, like, I'm sure you can see those. And then one, the administration of the last year. Because one part of us down there last. The same. I mean, I never used to work. Hour north of there. Here. Carol. Yeah. 12 miles. Yeah, I felt it. I mean, it's even enough.
Some might be income generating.
You know,
But not necessarily, but it's fine.
You all,
I think.
I can show you.
And that environment,
Oh, you know.
I was thinking. What we got to board. What do you guys discuss?
Oh.
Just in general.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh, yeah, like sharing.
No. Wonderful.
Way up. Town to the forest. And, yes, I've known there's everything. I went out and first time like there. Cheese store there and live there. And it's all like within 10 blocks. Now, when you go up, like Thursday morning, then actually about the and Madison, you know, because you 90 years, you still have us in the city.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be the most congested spot.
Oh, God.
It's almost never.
Okay, so we could cut on it.
So I grew up in the 100s. Next 90.
There was like,
What's going on here, Mr. President? Let's go.
I gotta get my hammer.
the hammer, don't give it to Ron.
Now I'm thinking of Peter, Paul and Mary. I'll think myself. Remember that? If I had a hammer.
All right, let's reconvene. We got a lot to do.
You know, we're gonna take a recess though, and we have cake in honor of our retiree, John Kramer, which will come back together following that, but we've got cake, so please get a piece of cake. And thank you, Upland, for facilitating the conversation. Did you have any closing What you're gonna do with all of this stuff and?
Yeah, no, we definitely will quantify it all and, hopefully you'll see some of this end up in the recommendations for your plan.
And Michelle, we're anxious to see the responses, you know, the 540 compared to the general population responses.
Yeah, oh, okay, great, yep.
Yeah.
Got it.
So you should.
All right, do we have a picture of John with the cake?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do
Oh,
that.
thank you. Oh, we all, oh, thank you.
So, yeah, Monday,
Check and recheck.
Yeah, but there's kind of.
Okay, sir. So, I can't off you yet, about long enough, either. They're all hang off.
Yeah, be a.
And right now, I have to fall out.
You're right.
The avid thing.
No, I.
Yeah.
Oh, just like.
And then, company, and we have to go visit it.
Oh, all right.
Past what is still residual.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm going to,
Oh, okay.
So please help you about that. We have about 10 to 15 minutes. I'll leave it back to order.
No, I was.
For those online that are wondering what's happening.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming quiet here, especially at the work.
What am I?
Yeah.
And they actually, maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yes.
Yeah. Was right here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He wasn't. So he started his ranger. The road is. Oh my gosh, you know.
Really right here.
To another.
Yeah.
But anyway, when I thought, yeah, yeah. They came out here and on them another 5 or 6 years old. It's mostly, yeah. Father Bart. My mom called.
Yeah, that's. So that was.
That's for sure. Where am I getting I don't know, it's easier.
And you can just tell me. I don't know.
Family, how old are Aaron,
No, it's just a different. Some are different. Some are different. Yeah, just saying, these are different. I know. The guy in the brown jacket is. Yeah. Okay, ready? All right, can we repeat the question?
And get everybody back here. I don't know where she went. As soon as Christie gets back, we'll start the meeting.
All right.
I make the minute. Oh, that was 15. Okay. Okay. I don't know where she got it at. It's a big finger. All right, for everyone that's at home, we're gonna call me back here.
So this is, it's your 3 cents. Here, resolution 23. All right, Christie, ready to go?
Yes,
All right, we're back in business.
I can do this.
Wanna do roll call, get everybody to do something, we're all here, nobody left.
No one left.
Oh, well,
Okay.
all right.
We didn't do official.
All right, John?
I'd like to make a motion, 5.1, recognition, retirement of John.
I mean, we gotta wait a second,
Oh,
our guest of honor is.
We can talk about it.
Sorry, you talk about it.
Put out the door, let's go there.
I told Ben before, if it gets too heated, I'm just diving out the door.
Well, moving on to 5.2. We'll reverse the 5. I'm making a motion on recognition of the retirement of John Kramer, Director of Operations, Planning and Public Safety. Resolution 26-67, a resolution celebrating, recognizing the retirement of John Kramer, Director of Operations, Planning and Public Safety, for dedicated service and commitment to the residents and visitors of the McHenry County Conservation District.
I second the motion.
Moved and seconded, thank you.
Vice President Wazorek,
Yes.
Secretary Zeller,
Yes.
Treasurer Zimmerman.
Yes.
Trustee Brady. Yes. President Everard.
Yes, heartily.
Motion passed.
All right, I will read the resolution.
I even tried to hide in that. Told I'm pretty good at that.
And John, we have a plaque for you, but I will read to the group as to what it says. Whereas McHenry County Conservation District has protected over 25,800 acres of open space, 35 conservation areas, and 45 miles of regional trails that provide access to more than 115 miles of an integrated trail network. Act to restore its lands to their ecological health, offers educational programs that encourage appreciation of the natural environment and a fundamental understanding of the environmental ethic, and develops its lands for the safe, quiet enjoyment and interest of the McHenry County residents. And whereas the district is supported in its efforts by many dedicated staff and volunteers who engage in a variety of activities, including protection of natural resources and the flora, fauna, and people who share them, site and facility maintenance and improvement, natural area restoration, trail clearing and monitoring, wildlife monitoring and care, environmental, historical, and cultural interpretation, educational outreach programs, and many other endeavors. And whereas John Kramer began his career at the district 2000 as the Director of Operations, And whereas John Kramer holds a Bachelor of Applied Science in Public Administration from Iowa State University and brought with him to the district professional experience gained in leadership roles at Boone County Conservation District and Benton County River Parks. And whereas John spent his first decade at the district directing land and facility maintenance, later renamed operations, planning and development, police, natural resources, the Wildlife Resource Center, education services, and accounting. And while some of these departments were later separated into multiple divisions under new leaders, John retained his commitment to being a leader for all staff and the good of the district as a whole. Whereas John Kramer played a key role in securing more than $15 million in grants for land acquisition, site development, and trail development and renovation, helped open 19 new conservation areas, 4 regional trails, including the Hebron Trail, Trail, Stone Mill Trail, and Ridgefield Trace, and contributed to the renovations and opening of Lost Valley Visitor Center, as well as the addition of countless amenities, access points, and site improvements at district properties across the county. And whereas John Kramer helped guide the district through 3 successful referendums, most recently 2024, to protect water quality, preserve wildlife habitat, and increase outdoor recreation access for all, and was selected to serve as lead project manager on the Forward to 2040 with a vision to 2071 comprehensive conservation plan that will guide the district for the next decade and beyond. And whereas John led various teams on innovative projects that gained them recognition as pioneers in the region, including the design and implementation of the district's hunting program, introduction of the solar lit trails to allow evening trail use in winter months, installation of automatic timed gates, and the proactive creation of an e-bike and micro mobility device ordinance and cross-department educational campaign. And whereas John Kramer led volunteer work groups in restoring structures at the McConnell Farmstead from 2008 to 2018, and whereas John embraced change and produced lasting efficiencies across the district by championing mowing reduction strategies rooted in site observation, modifying snow removal practices, which saved the district tens of thousands of dollars annually in overtime and repair costs, overseeing operations transition from a paper-based maintenance management system to an online platform that improved responsiveness, documentation, and reporting, and guiding a data-driven approach to vehicle use and replacement that extends the useful life of district vehicles. And whereas John led his team in the demolition of hundreds of buildings acquired through land purchases, which had been determined to be of no use, to eliminate potential liabilities for the district and prepare the sites for restoration activities or new amenities. And whereas John's voice of reason and diplomacy made him the ideal lead negotiator with the district's 2 labor unions, resulting in roughly 15 union contracts over his tenure. And whereas John mentored countless staff members, helped the district foster relationships with local municipalities, partners, and contractors, and built goodwill for the conservation district's mission among volunteers, residents, and special interest groups he engaged with throughout its duties. And whereas John has decided to retire from his position, effective August 24th, 2026, let it be resolved that the officers and Board of Trustees of the McHenry County Conservation District hereby express and convey their deep and sincere gratitude and heartfelt appreciation to John for his continued dedication to the mission of the district, and that this resolution be incorporated into the official records of the district. In witness whereof we have hereunto subscribed our names and affixed the seal of the district on this day, 20th of August, August 26th. If a signed one coming, sorry, affix this, they said.
There's been a running joke. John has somehow dated photos after 26 years.
We got him now.
Thanks so much.
Congratulations.
I'm for.
John, you care to say a few words?
These people that work here can write really well. I like, kind of like that guy. You know, something put it in perspective for me recently, and I don't know if Amy Peters is online or not. But she was doing something for the comp plan. Michelle wanted something, Elizabeth and Michelle were working on something, and Amy produced, I think Sarah Rummel was involved as well. It was this, it identified what the district, it started in 73, what sites it had opened from 73 to 2000. And then it identified what had happened 2000 on. When, you know, I started just, I just happened to look at that. And I was like, there's like, you know, maybe a half a page or a third of a page in those first, whatever, number 30 years. And then there were like 2 pages. And I looked at that and it struck me like, no damn wonder I've been so busy, you know? But that's what happened when resources are made available. I mean, those were on the heels of 2 referendums and all of those opportunities of you know, buying land and opening these sites and building these trails and things like that. And I'm just grateful and honored that I got to be part of that process. Because that would have been a half of that, half of the size of that, had those 2 things not happened. So I'm very fortunate to have done that. I worked with a tremendous group of people, boards of trustees, and I'll still say one parting thing to the board. Thank you for nudging me when you needed to nudge me. Thank you for guiding me. Thank you for listening when you needed to listen. And that is, I've always seen that wonderful partnership with the board as a give take, and we're all working to pull that wagon in the same direction. So I'm grateful that you tolerated me for 26 years. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And we wish you all the best. And for those of you who don't know John's plans, he's going to take his bike and ride to Iowa. Not, you know, not like, you know, to home or anything, to home in Iowa. He's originally from. So how many days are you going to ride?
5 days.
5 days. Outstanding. So all the best for you.
So he leaves on Monday. That will be his last day. For those that were with us yesterday, thank you for joining us for the time that you did. But we did honor John. Obviously, thanks again with all the friendship that was there, but also in honor of John, it is formally, you will see we have fixed stations along the trail, and with the wayfinding work that we're doing with our new official signage, will be temporary signage. John has one to take home, then there'll be one that'll be affixed, and our operations team will be getting it placed up. But in McHenry, you'll see that it'll be the Creamer's Fix-It Station, and we thought that was
Very cool.
wonderful.
Very nice.
Yeah.
We would say, I knew that guy.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, Elizabeth, next we have some more recognition.
We do, and you know, there was it's amazing to see our professionals leaning in and working to become certified. And as we go down the list, particularly as I'm going through even our policy manual, just gotta keep adding everybody's initials onto the certification. So it is impressive. And I want to congratulate, we have 2 additional honorees here that have reached certification status. Our Director of Land Preservation and Natural Resources, ours, and then Ben O'Day, who is our operations manager. So congratulations to both of them for an ongoing commitment, not only to take the exam, but to continue to stay educated and involved. As continuing education, you never arrive, it's an always ongoing process. And so the district is fortunate that we have team members that want to advance it.
Outstanding. All right, next, it is my pleasure to introduce Jolie Dippenhorst, the Executive Director of McHenry County Historical Society. We met, we had a COG meeting several months ago that was hosted by Jolie in the museum, and Bonnie and I were there, and we struck up a conversation, and we started talking about the Kennedy House, and Jolie her wheels started turning, and I couldn't wait to hear what she's got to say today, because she's got a lot of good ideas, and it really tags along nicely with the presentation we had earlier. So with that, Jolie.
Thanks for having me. I'm the executive director at the McHenry County Historical Society. I put this here because lots of people don't even know we exist, so I want to put this on your radar. Thank you to the board and thank you everybody for inviting me. Last September, a little backstory, our Historic Sites Committee reached out to the Conservation District and asked about the Kennedy Way Station. And then magically, I got an email from John to come and visit the way station, and we invited our Historic Sites Committee, and we said, how can we help? What do you need from us? And so we talked about the 2040 plan, and so I went back to the office and started thinking, so as dedicated as a conservation district is to land conservation, we are dedicated to historic preservation and cultural preservation. And so when I went back to the office, I thought, how can we implement that at the Kennedy Way Station? And I came up with this 20-year plan, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. Next slide. So a little history about the Kennedy Way Station. I'm not sure if everybody knows about it. The farmland was purchased by a New Yorker, John A. Kennedy, in 1846. And by 1853, construction of a brick building began for an inn that served the northwest stage line. Legend has it that the inn served women travelers and the nearby Brookdale Inn served male travelers. Fortunately, I don't find any evidence to support that claim, but I haven't dug deep enough to find it. But we do know that there was a stagecoach stop until the railroad came to town. It went back to being a farmstead when it was purchased by the Haley brothers in 1907, who owned it until 1922. Then the Pellegrims owned it until 1950. When the Paulson family purchased it and asked the McHenry County Historical Society to plaque it in 1982, which we did. So technically it's been plaqued since 1982. Next slide. So with this background information, next slide. Here's the plaque, next slide, there we go. So with this background information about the significance of the building, I would like to present this 20-year plan for the Kennedy Way Station, and the suggestions are as follows. So the first 5 years would include writing a National Register nomination so that it could become part of the National Register. This nomination, or this is honorary. It doesn't mean that you can't do anything that you want to, but you do this for tax credits. You're not allowed to use tax credits unless you're on the state register or the National Register. The property has been plaqued for more than 44 years, and it is a part of the Historic American Building Survey from 1936. So it really is a good candidate for the nomination and the register. All of these pictures, these black and white pictures, come from that the American Building Survey from 1936. Next slide. National Register, I'm behind on my slides. So next slide. The key here are tax credits. Once it's approved for, if it's approved for nomination on the National Register, it would qualify for tax credits. Generally, it's 20% of the cost of rehabilitation. So the Landmark Illinois is really informational about this, and I spoke with Quinn at the Landmark Illinois this week, and there is a process to follow, but he has offered, if you guys are interested, to help with an idea on how to get the 20% of the tax credits. This is something that the Woodstock Opera House did, the courthouse. They created a collaborative partnership that helped restore the building and was used and is now used by several nonprofits for profit today. There is also an opportunity to add preservation or conservation easement that can be beneficial to the property owner. However, it would also mean that nothing can change about the property if you sell your easement. This would also be a tax deduction for the value of the easement. The caveat is that you cannot do both and reap the full benefits of tax credits and easements. So check out your handout for more details. Next slide. Another approach for rehabilitation for the Kennedy Way Station is to invite tradespeople who want to teach their preservation skills. There are several that I have worked with in the past, including Phoenix Preservation. They work all over the country, but their primary focus is windows and ventures in preservation in Colorado. They work internationally and regionally, and they bring in experts to do the work and teach people to do the work. HistoriCorps in Colorado is pretty well known nationally, and they work with the Forest Service and the Art Institute of Chicago. I haven't worked with them personally, but I have read about their program, and they're interested in doing preservation work and teaching these trades to their students. And then another thought is Loyola University might be an avenue for archaeology. Maybe they could pick up some money for that too. Next slide. So years 5 to 10, once the building is restored, and I realize that could take a long time, then it's time to activate the space and invite the community in. Using an interpretive plan, which is creating the visitor experience. You could create field trips for curriculum. 4 field trips would appeal to grades 3 through 12 and make each one relevant to the age group. Can you, next slide. Hands-on history field trips. Camps are also, summer camps are a wonderful thing and really informative and good for kids. And hopefully an educator will be part of the equation and we can produce curriculums. Trainings for college students, archaeology, preservation, history, and for educators could also be another idea. Next slide. And of course, adults and the community at large for programs and workshops. Lectures would encourage the community to engage at the Kennedy Way Station. You could also do special events like stagecoach rides, fall festivals, quiet concerts, 3-piece bands, picnics, Halloween, things like that. Next slide. Next slide. So 10 to 20 years, if this is successful, you just keep going. Whoever is running the Kennedy Way Station can continue to run programming and education, and it would be a compelling piece of history to share with children and adults alike. Next slide. And then you just keep going. I know this plan is just touching the surface, and I only have 10 minutes to tell you, but it's part of what needs to be done to keep the Kennedy Way Station there. But the possibilities can be endless. If the Conservation District can partner with nonprofit to make this happen, it could be a very successful collaboration for the community. Slide. And that's it. That's all I have. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
And Julie, make sure I'm not overstating it, but you and the museum are interested in partnering with us.
There is some interest, yes, but I think we would have to have a collaboration, bring in Landmark Illinois and help us with that collaboration, and talk to the Woodstock Courthouse and see how they did it. They did a fantastic job of LLC and a nonprofit and how they worked that. So it's really compelling. I think it could be of interest.
Any questions? All right. We'll pick up this subject. We got such a full agenda tonight, but we'll talk about this some more. And either Elizabeth or I will reach out to you and we'll figure out what next steps are to keep going.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Dawn.
Thank you.
And by the way, if you haven't been to the museum in any, maybe you've never been. If you haven't been for a while, go. And if you've never been, go. It's been wonderful. It's really cool. I hadn't been there for a number of years. And I was really blown away when I went to the McCog, all the changes and all the neat stuff there. So I encourage you to go see the museum.
Julie's doing a great job, full of energy. I mean, just stuffing the programs.
Thank you very well. And we're open all the time now. Don't have to wait for us to be open on Saturday. We're open all the time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, let's see. Public comments. Anyone?
I don't see any hands raised or anything.
Everyone? All right,
We're good.
review of the regular meeting agenda items. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to take a look at them. There are many items. It's a long list. And by the way, Ron has agreed to serve as Secretary Pro Tem next week in Nora's absence, so he'll have the
It's a long one, Nora.
Sorry.
No worries.
So for the sake of time, can I trust everyone has had a look at it and there's no objections to the items or any questions? If not, the agenda will stand as is. All right. Okay, and next will be Jamie. We're gonna switch orders.
Yes.
So it's my pleasure to introduce Jamie Racklin. He's the owner and president of Mariston Advisors. Jamie served as the financial advisor for the district's 2014 bond refinancing. That ended up saving the taxpayers $14 million to elect the bonds, and then he also served as the 2020 issuance of the debt certificates that we're going to talk about tonight. I did send a copy of the resume. Should you get a chance to look at it, I encourage it. It's a pretty impressive resume. But I did just want to mention that he also serves on the board of Open, which is pretty cool. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Jamie. We're going to kind of partner a little bit.
Were we gonna get some?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanna
Sure.
start by saying I'm thrilled to work with you guys. Just because of the connection to open lands, my connection to conservation. It's
Welcome.
I'm thrilled to come out here. What's that?
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, it's great. It just puts a smile on. Thank you for having me. So all this that we're talking about tonight has to do with the pitch and parcel, which Andy's going to remind you about shortly. But in 2006, you entered into an installment agreement to buy that pitch and parcel, and you as part of that, Andy will give you more of the history. But you issued debt certificates, basically borrowed money to pay for a portion of that that we weren't able to do with cash at the time. And that was due $2.3 million, just under $2.4 million, due coming up on December 30th. And that's why I'm here. It's because you have this big payment coming up due in just a few months. Now you could pay that off, right? If you felt you had the money, but the more conservative approach for you, given your cash flows, we're going to talk about, might be to refinance that, repay it over a number of years with the option to prepay if you find yourself with the money as you go along. All right, so really that's the financing that I'm going to be describing to you tonight. Calendar wise, with that maturity date of December 30th, you could do this as early as the beginning of October. If you did that, depending on the rates, you could invest the money from beginning of October to when the bonds pay off December 30th, and you might be able to earn a little bit of a spread. If we see that opportunity and have you do that early, it's like a couple $1,000s. It's not great, but it's something. If not, then we just wait till December to pay those off. And I'll give you, there's a little nuance here that's different from how you did it last time when we did this in 2020. Which is, I think, a private placement with a bank is going to work out better for you if we take this approach this time around, as opposed to last time we went to the public markets. And I'll describe the difference between the two things. So just as a reminder on the pitch and parcel, do you want to?
Sure. So just to go back in history, it was 138 acres that the district purchased, a farm size of 10,918 square feet structures adjacent to the Hollows Conservation Area, had a full woodland on it. And we purchased it for $6.5 million in 2006, put $200,000 down on it. It was at a 2.5% interest rate, which I think was about half of the market rate at the time, so it was a really good interest rate, and a 10-year term on it. In September of 2011, we paid $1.5 million, took possession of the property legally. And then we paid another $500,000 for an extension to take it out to December 31st, 2021. And at that time, that was before we had the 07 bond issuance, we would have paid all the 01 bonds off in 21. So the idea was we could refinance them if we, obviously things changed since then. So that left a balance of $4.3 million from the $6.5 million we bought it for, less than $200,000 we put down, and then we made $2 million in payments on it. The 4.3 million is what we refinanced in 2020. And we did that using 1.9 million of unrestricted reserves and then the 2.38 million of debt certificates. At an interest rate of 1.26, so really ultra low interest rate. That was all in it. And we've been paying the annual interest payment since for $35,000. And then you want me to?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
sure I can. So I think you'll see Andy's cash flow projections on the next page, but the sense is that your current cash flow doesn't quite support taking out $2.4 million to pay this off, on December 30th. And that's why we're looking refinancing. So in talking with Andy, the structure that he'd like to propose that he kind of thinks works for the district, we did pay this off over 7 years, which is much more manageable on the cash flow. But if you do get anticipated grants, if you do find yourself with the cash available, give you the opportunity to pay those off maybe after 3 years. If we get a shorter call period than that, people sort of balk. They want to know that they're putting out their money for a certain period of time. So if we'd shoot for like a 3-year call. And there's other options that would get you shorter. We'll think about those as we go along here. But that gives you both flexibility and a manageable payment stream for the month. So yes, please.
How long have we had the balance of the 2.38 and just been paying the interest?
2020.
6 years straight, we're just paying interest.
Right. Because we had some very serious cash flow issues, as we know.
And that's been at 1.5%. Your yield on that was even less. We saw everything. It's just kind of.
At that time, the board really debated how much to use of unrestricted reserves, and so we were doing a lot of financial forecasting, saying, "Look, yeah, you got $7 million in the bank right now, but as we look out and we're not getting these levy increases, it's not going to work." So that was kind of a compromise position that they took that 1.9 million.
When the inflation rate was higher than that during the whole time, so you were actually ahead.
Oh, yeah. You made out very, very well on that borrowing. And if you had, to the extent you kept your cash, you've been earning the last 2-3 years, 2, 3, 4% on that money. So that one worked out very well. Interest rates today, not as good. But so this is just a reminder of where Eddie's cash flow projection is so that you can see it, you can make your own determination, ask your own questions about uses of cash, where cash needs to be, and assess the need to do this for yourselves. To ask questions. I don't think we'll spend time. You'll probably spend more time.
And I really put this together for Jamie's benefit. The board's seen a lot of them, but the bottom line is we know the tightest time we have is at the end of this fiscal year, in the next couple of months, then the levy comes in. So it's just, if this was 18 months down the road, we might be able to look at a different picture. The other, there's some of the settlements, the mitigation revenue that could come in that could change everything. You may take advantage of it.
And there's no prepayment penalty?
There would be no prepayment penalty because we bid that, say, this is what we want. And when we do it, because that is very short, I'll talk more about the methods, but we'll give the bidders options to say, listen, what would it be if it was just 7 years? What would it be if we want a short call like 30 years? Another option is they might just bid a variable rate. Say, hey, give you a rate that will go up and down, and that way you can pay it off anytime. Because then they don't care. Those are all things. Those are nuances and details that we'll look into. In terms of calendar, laid it out here. I kind of hinted at it earlier. If you determine to go ahead tonight, we'll get busy with a term sheet that would go out to banks, bidders as early as next week, right? If we're doing the fast track with it's due right before your September board meeting, so we come back with rates next September, for you to approve in September, close on October 1, and then you'd have the money, it would be invested until the bonds pay off in October. You know, you can also do this a month later. Or even 2 months later, we can do it right up to the November board.
And what would be like the commitment fee and?
None. I mean, yeah,
None?
there's no fees. There are no fees unless the transaction closes, right? So, there's counsel that puts together all the documents. My fee, those are really the only two fees you have. There might be a couple other things, but, very small. Everything's contingent on the bond issue. And the banks don't charge you a commitment fee. They're making you a loan, so they're getting their payments, their.
I've seen the banks do commitment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so here's fee schedule, and so one of the benefits of doing a private placement versus a public offering is a significant savings in fees. So if you go the public offering route there, for a private placement on the right, you really just have a couple of fees. You have the municipal advisor, which is me putting it together. You have bond counsel, who gives the bank assurance that everything's been done legally. Sometimes the purchaser requires their own counsel to review the transaction. That's generally small, but often they don't even have that. And sometimes you have a paying agent, which is someone who reminds you that you have the payment due date coming up and sends you a bill. That's really the fees on the private placement. If you do the public offering, and this is consistent with what we did last time, but we had reasons for doing a public offering, you additionally have someone putting together an offering statement that it's a significant expense. You have an underwriter actually who provides the intermediary services between yourselves and the purchaser. You have the rating fee of about $14,000. So it's a lot of costs for something that's very short. You don't have the opportunity to amortize those costs over a long period of time, so they end up impacting your borrowing rate, which is another reason that private placement just called bank favor.
A floating rate?
What's that?
It's a floating rate?
Most likely it's going to be a fixed rate, right? The only reason to do a floating rate is if you said, hey, we'd really like the option to pay this off after like even a year, right? Most banks wouldn't do that. So unless they had a float. I don't know if you care about the details, but basically when they lend you money, they're locking in a cost of funds.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to guess how long they need to lock in that cost of funds for. If all of a sudden you say, oh, we're going to pay it off, they have a chance. There's a possibility they might lose money on your loan. And so, but if they have a floating rate, then they have a floating cost of funds, percent. We'd only do that if you wanted to, because there's risk involved in that, right? Because rates could go up too.
Yeah, you would have to have
just go down. So
okay.
not my favorite, not my first choice. That would only be if you came back and said, no, we really want to be able to pay this off like next month. Then you probably.
Okay, I thought you said it was.
No. Most likely will be good. So just real, I think I've actually pretty much covered it, right? Why we're doing private placement. And that's mostly it. Where rates are, if you're interested, we're a lot higher than the 1.5%, 1.25% where we were when these funds originally sold. Unfortunately, we hear a lot about rate volatility. If you look over the last couple of years, we've kind of just been in this band of higher rates. We keep thinking they're coming down, they keep not coming down. I'd love it if they were lower, but they are what they are. But this was just to give you an indication of where the rates are. That graph on the right shows you a 1-year average, and where we are right now. In orange, you see we're a little bit above the 1-year average, and the range over the last several years.
What do you expect the rate to be?
I think you're probably all in. These are the AAA rates, so you'd probably be about. I'm expecting you'll be around 4. That would be what I would hope, is that you'll be 4 by a little bit. %. Yeah.
Any other question?
Do we read the terms then before our board meeting next week? Is that how it goes? You guys think?
Yeah, so technically,
On
yes, it's pretty, in terms of terms, it's pretty straightforward. What'll happen is, because bidders don't want to give you a rate and then hold it for a month, say. So they tend to give us the rate the day before the board meeting. You'll have a board resolution that, a form of it will be in the pack. There's a couple of ways we can do it if you're concerned about that. So let me start with the way it normally works. Normally, get the bids, we put the bids into the bond resolution, the best bid into the bond resolution, you have the bond resolution, and you pass it. The terms are pretty straightforward. We're lending you money for 7 years. It's at a fixed interest rate, pay so much a year, it's gonna be level payments over those 7 years. Those are really the terms. There's no, if they accept our offer that we have a 3-year call, that you can pay them off anytime after 3 years. Those are really the terms. There isn't much more.
Is it like a mortgage though, where the interest is front loaded, or is the interest same each year?
No, so as you pay down principal, the interest will go down. Right, so it's like your mortgage, where you have a level payment, the principal keeps going up, the interest keeps going down, and in the aggregate, it's just like.
This would not be next Tuesday. We're bringing this would be something that we would bring
I'm
forward in
sorry.
September.
Yes,
No,
yes.
I thought that was kind of what it's gonna be on, because it's not on the agenda for next week. This is, we're bringing it here so that we can plan and then bring it back in September.
I'm
The
sorry.
board is.
Yes. I'm thinking about this like a board meeting, so the next board meeting, no, my next board meeting in September. So you don't get that paperwork much in advance, of the bids. The other way to do it, if you were concerned about that, you really wanted to read the bond resolution and things like that, we could do what's called a parameters resolution, where we give you parameters in a resolution. You'd have that in time for your board packets, you could read the resolution, you could pass the resolution, and then after the board meeting, we would take the bids, and as long as the bids came in within the parameters that are in the board resolution, the authority to issue the authority to approve the bids would be delegated, to Elizabeth and Andy, and they just take care of it.
So you're saying you think it's gonna be around 4%?
I think it would be around 4%.
How does that work? Like, can you explain the graphs then?
So what this is, so the graphs right here are AAA rates. So that's the best rates that are available in the market. You're a AA, so you're gonna trade at a spread off of those AAA rates. And then you have the fees, and so the fees drive up your, I'm talking about like net all in.
Do you not have figures for AA?
So
is that not possible?
it's not like this is like a benchmark.
Right,
This is-
yeah.
Yeah, so there's no AA benchmark, so to speak,
Okay.
right? We go,
We're visualizing something that we're not at. So that's why.
correct, and this is really just to give you an idea generally
Okay.
where rates are and where they've been. Yeah, it's not intended to reflect. So you're gonna have this spread to those rates, wisely pointed, noticing. That's the credit spend that the banks charge, and then those fees add on, effectively raise your borrowing rates as well.
Okay.
So we can show you when I come back with those bids, we can show you comparable financings for, other issuers who've been in the
Okay.
market with the AA, so you can kind of see what did we get, what did they do.
Great. Okay.
Anything else? Right. So we'll see you in September.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there cake left for Jamie?
Square.
All right.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then Andy? Thank you, Jamie.
She's just in a good mood today.
That's it.
All right, so.
Executive session. Thank you.
So this is the annual lawn presentation that we prepare for the next 28, fiscal year 28 budget. Also the 26 levy, which you guys have to approve in September. So the objectives are to understand the 28 general fund revenues, because they're obviously going to drive everything. So that's how it will look.
Take care of it.
The 28 revenues obviously are going to drive what we can afford to do. Awesome. That's 58. What's I'm gonna be honest. I'm trying. We just got, I think we're back out. It's a good distinction. Yeah. Some of the board.
Do we still own the pensions under song? Or are they totally fixed?
No, still 4 million.
No, but we own it.
You know.
Don't we own it?
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Better 20. Yes, everything. So then the other guideline we're looking for, the same as they are in the past years, set the 26 levy, PTEL levy, determine the employee overall wage cost increase, set a maximum cost increase for the non-personnel costs. We give that to the managers that kind of build their operational budgets, determine levels of capital spending. Then last year and all the years before, it said determine use of general fund reserves. But we won't be doing that. We don't need general fund reserves for this budget. It's the first time. Probably with that. On the revenue side, so this is how the 28 revenues look. Property taxes 88%, farm lease is second at 5%. Everything else is really around 1.8, rounded up to 2, but also small. Looking at them over time, this shows the property tax as percent of total revenue over from 2017 to 2028. We can see in 26, it jumped 88%. That's the first year from that 24 levy we captured fiscal year 25, 26. That's for the big jump. Other than that, it's really been kind of stable to fall. Farm lease revenue going down, and a big part of that, we had to take the 830 acres out of Coon Creek. The other piece is the last few years, farm corn's actually been priced a little bit lower than 22, 23, and we'll look at that. It's down to 5%. And then state personal property tax, investment income, program fees, other income, really pretty flat as a percentage of total revenue, right? So they've had to grow to keep up, otherwise they'd be falling down. But they all really right now are about 1.5%. That blue line is the state PPRT. And if you remember, it jumped for no explanation for 2 years. It tripled from 200,000 up to 600,000. Now it's right back down one more from where it started from. So looking at the property tax revenue, this is a slide I show every year, probably maybe the last year we show it, but it's important. So over the last 13 years, we've given up $11.8 million of property tax revenue. And we've given up $1.6 million of annual property tax capacity, levy capacity. So about 30% of that referendum increase just recaptures the 1.6 we're giving up. So just kind of filling the hole there. And looking at the PTEL levy, and this is important, right? Because you're going to approve it next year. So this is the total PTEL levy from 25, 13.6 million. We're allowed to grow it by inflation rate of 2.7%. That was the inflation rate for calendar year 2025. Gives us an additional 368,000. My estimate for the revenue we'll get from new development is $109,000. Should be within 20 grand with all new development finalizes and ends up. In total, that's a 3.5% year-over-year property tax levy increase, PTEL, $477,000. If we compare last year's levy to this year, there's that 3.5% on the PTEL, but last year we had a $10.3 million bond levy. And this year in 26, there is no levy. So that is, and we really should have a drum roll for this. $9.9 million, 41% decrease in overall property. Pretty cool. Looking at the farm lease revenue, makes up 5%. This shows the green bars are actual farm revenue each year. The blue is what we budgeted. You can see we're usually pretty close, but sometimes there's some changes in February that we're not predicting summer change. 27, that actual, I don't know, so I just matched the budget. It's too early it should be close. Actually, the corn was very close to the budget, so it wasn't 462, but 460. So it should come in very close to that. And then what we're budgeting, what we're guessing is what is the December of 2027 corn futures going to be for the average of February 2027, right? So we're really looking out pretty far. So what I show is what we showed you guys in fiscal year 24, that 566, that was the future price during this meeting at that time. The $6 is how that actually ended up for the fiscal year that determined the revenue. There's 25, we're at 542 and at 466. 26, 448, and 470, so a little movement, but not a ton. And then 27, 462 is where we ended. We were at 448. Right now, we're at 5. So for this budget revenue, I just left it at 5 flat, and that's how I drove the farm lease revenue. And then doing that, you can see it's showing $830,000 of budget revenue, and corn at $5, up from 462. So a little bit of an increase equal to that loss of it. Under the program fees, education programs are showing it up 3.5%. You can see the green's the actual, the blue's the budget. So ever since COVID, where we really, the budget got destroyed in 21, you see that little tiny green bar, the big blue. It's taken a while to get education to, get more confidence and, hey, let's budget what we know we're going to get. Because that can change, the bad summer of weather, that can all get cut in half pretty quickly. But you can see we're starting to, come right together with actual now in fiscal year 20. Hunting fees, in 27, we budgeted them down. We had changed the point system for non-residents, right? And it actually, we didn't lose much revenue on it. So the fiscal year 26 revenue was still strong. 27 looks good. So I'm bringing that back up more in line with the actual from the 25, 26 actual hunting season. Camping shelter fees, I'm actually backing down a little bit just based on actual. There's been no real change in the fee structure, but you can see at 26, we only had the 52,000 revenue. 27, just kind of guessing at where we're at year to date, it's going to be 53. So I just moved it down to 51. It's not so. State personal property replacement tax. Again, we talk about this every year. It's unpredictable. It's all over the map. The Illinois Municipal League puts out this graph, and it shows how much the state diverts from a PPRT fund. Every year they pull a whole bunch of money out. This is in the hundreds of millions. So in 2027, $408 million is what the Illinois Municipal League is saying they diverted from it. So because of that, has a huge impact on what we see. The green bar then is the district's actual dollars we got. You can see it just jumped way up at 23 to 673,000. And now it's right back down in 26. It ended at actual 232. I'm projecting 213 this year, a little bit below budget. I think I budgeted 230. But as I see the trend now starting, I'm picking that back up to 238. So I think we'll make that. And then the revenues in total, then property tax going up to 42%, farm lease revenue 3.9, state personal replacement tax 11.4, investment income. I didn't talk about it, but this is really a matter of building back reserves. And so we had budgeted to be much lower at the end of 26, much lower in 27 than we're actually going to be. So we have more reserves to work with. I'm holding interest rates flat. I don't know if they went up or down. No one really does. But because of the reserve, you have more investments. We're going to see a nice increase in that. Should see that. Programs and services up 4%. Other revenues up 8%. This is based on our actual year to date, trying to get it more in line with what's happening right now. So total general revenue fund increase of $4.2 million with 37%. Moving on, do the expenditures. How are we going to spend them? I'm going to start with the non-personnel other operating expenditures. I just put this up there to remind the board, these are, necessary items, are not discretionary. Utilities, fuel, IT, legal, those types of things, they make up 90%. Just in these line items you're looking at here, 90% of all our operating expenditures. Rate of inflation based on the change in CPI, year to date, right now we're at 3%. And if we go back and look at fiscal year 2010 to 23, the inflation rate grew 28%, 28.8. We actually made our departments reduce their budget over that time period by 6%, so they absorbed 35%. Since then, we've been doing much better. So from 24 on, we've come pretty close to lining up with the CPI increase, and we're asking again this year, suggesting that we allow the non-personnel budgets to grow by 3%. Wages. So that's the CPI change, the inflationary rates, the blue line, and then this is the wages. And from 2009 to 19, we matched pretty closely. Then inflation took off during COVID for 2 years. And we didn't come close to matching that. Then we got back in line again. So in 23, 24, 25, we're getting much closer, awarding across the board economic adjustment that falls more in line with inflation. We're suggesting or asking for, again, another 3% to match what's happening in the market. Which, again, doesn't, you have to absorb a 19% in the health insurance costs too, so. For the non-bargaining employees, 3% economic merit increase. Just looked at for the 150, they're under a contract, expires March of 2028. They have the same 3% in the contract. For the FOP, as we know, the contract expired March of this year, so we're in negotiations now. This budget includes the cost, our most recent offer that we talked about. One thing I didn't have in the PowerPoint that went to you guys ahead of time, I forgot about it, but we're right now starting the market study with MVP that the board approved. They should have that done in draft form by the end of September to the board, probably by October. So we'd like to set aside a 1%. This would be the max. It doesn't mean we're going to spend 1%, but based whatever the market adjustments may be, we would have that to work with. All this is going to come back to the board in November. It's more of a package, and you can look and see what works and what doesn't. We're obviously going to have to make some refinements from what you're looking at today. Under health insurance, as you know, the overall plan increase for all three plans was 25%. So we worked to increase the deductibles, increase the maximum out of pockets, increase co-pays, and increase the employee cost sharing on the HMO. That reduced that net rate increase to 19%. So pretty substantial decrease from 25 down to 19. And then as we look year over year, budget to budget, based on the employees that are on the books, when I put this together and the plans they had, we're only looking at a 14% increase year over year, which is nice. It's still a lot, but a lot better to look at than a 19 or 25%. Again, that could change as we go to an open enrollment, right? You can see other things happen and it can change throughout the years, obviously, as people's circumstances change. Slide that I've shown this before, I've talked about it a couple of times, but just as a reminder, since we've been with IPVC in 2022, that blue line is the premium we paid them. The orange is what IPVC paid out, claims they paid for the district. The red line shows the excessive amount IPVC had to pay for the district that they didn't get from us. So in total, it was $688,000 more in claims they paid than collected. So that's a big part of what we're seeing. It's going to be done to catch up next year too.
Sorry. Also says we need to look into getting our employees healthier.
What is that?
Get our employees healthier, obviously, if they're paying out, seeing the doctor.
Yeah, no, it's a big reality. The IMRF retirement rate increased this year. In looking at it, there's no real specific reason. I think a lot of it has to do with the people that are retiring, just the demographics of the district. It's still down from the 12%. So we were seeing a decrease from 21 through 27. I think, once you're matured in IMRF, which we are now, you pretty much see that 8% to 9% is going to fluctuate with investment returns and things like that. I don't think unless there's something drastic in the economy or, in their investments, we'll ever be looking at that 12%. But again, stock market tanks 30%, you might see something. So that does have an impact. That raises the cost of 5 to 9%. So then a summary of the employee benefits year over year are showing going up 4%, and I just threw that 1% as a reminder. So right now we're showing wages year over year with the 3% increase in there, with the FOP costs in there going up only 2.4%. A lot of that is because we have senior people who have left and are leaving. And so, we budget to come in a little bit lower than that. That's a substantial part of the savings. So all in all, 4% increase in this day and age in personnel is pretty reasonable. And then looking at the personal expense as a percent of total operating expense. So that is the total. We can see it growing slowly over the last 15, 16 years, right? 71% to 79%. If we look at the wages, they are growing, but you have to remember during all of those years, we weren't growing the denominator, right? So this is your wages over all other things that are non-personnel. And we were keeping that flat because we weren't letting anybody increase it. So if your wages grow 2 and 3%, the denominator is the same, it's gradually going to go up a little bit more and more. You can see in the last few years where we started to allow them to grow their budgets, it's flattened out. It was 59, 58, 59. It wasn't moving much. And even this year now it's 58 because we're growing that denominator by the same amount. So wages. Under retirement, you can see that was falling. This year it kicks up a little bit. And my screen just went down. Sure. It's so we're so close to being done.
No, see if
The big numbers.
Yeah. Back here.
Here comes the ass.
I got it.
Yeah, that's, I think I added some stuff to it.
I don't have that.
From down upstairs.
The fire suspicious.
It's used forward, but it's just like.
Oh, we do have some, yeah, because we want to show how we're going the year, right? When you look at it, always revenues, buys, expenditures, where it ends up.
Andy, why,
I can log in.
the last graph you had, why are you looking at, employee wages over operating? Just explain those, I'm just curious.
It's a good indicator, right, to make sure that you're managing the whole book of business. So in any service industry, it's heavily weighted to the personnel side. Any government agency, even the medical world, I mean, that's a lot of salaries. If that grows up to 90%, well, what's left to take care of the maintenance, the utilities, right? So really, we've kind of looked at 80. To me, it's really an 85% threshold. That's what I know from 20 years ago before I got here. It was 85%. That was like, if you started getting above that, then something else is failing. You're not managing. So it's something that I think is worth looking at. The districts always fall well below that. The other thing too, that's very hard to compare because many agencies will have a capital fund, will have 5 people with all their capital expenditures, all the personnel expenses with it, right? So those people aren't part of their operating budget, then they show a lower percentage.
Yeah.
A lot of times IMRF's a separate fund, a separate levy, so that doesn't necessarily get carried in there. But to me, the 85% would be a red flag. And as you get above 80, that's a yellow flag saying, hey, what are we doing? And other things we're not managing.
I know if this is the right one, if not, I'll pull it.
I don't. So yeah, that's good enough, I guess. So if I think we talk about all the expenditures. So if you take the revenue minus the expense highlighted in blue, we're down to $3.1 million of operating surplus compared to the first column where you had a deficit in this 27 budget we're right now, 609,000. So way to the good there. Go to the next slide. Yeah, so that's pre-capital. There's no capital yet coming out of that 3.1 million. So we have this detailed list of capital. Skip it and go to the next one. And that just summarizes all those things up. This is pretty preliminary, but there's a lot there. The big number there, $919,000, 14 vehicles. The newest one is 14 years old, right? And my next year replacement will be 15 years old. So these are vehicles that 2011 and 2012 they were purchased. The district got all backed up due to not having a levy increase. We had some years with some surpluses that we ended with. So in 11 and 12, we took on and tried to catch up with vehicles. Now they're all coming due. It doesn't mean we necessarily have to do them all this year, but 15 years is getting pretty old. So this would be the preferred schedule for them. That's the big number. The other one on there that stands out is the building improvements. I know we have $200,000 slated to replace all the heat exchangers, if I'm saying that right, in LVBC. There's a lot of them, so that's another big hit there. But in total, it's 1.6 million. That's probably $1 million more than we've averaged from the general fund in the last few years, other than if we had big reappropriations. But as far as we can. Next slide. So now we can take the 15 million of revenue, subtract the expenditures at the top there. That gives you the 3.1 million. Back out the capital outlays of 1.6, you're down to a net surplus of 1.4 million. We haven't funded the camp yet, so I'm putting that in as $1 million. In the budget for this year was 950,000, growing just a little bit. And then in Jamie's refinancing, if you take, I just kind of amortize the loan, 7 years, 4%, probably about $450,000 of annual payment, give or take. So when you back those two things out, you're down left with $11,000. Wow. So that's, it looks like, well, what did we gain? Well, you got $2 million, right? $1 million of camp funding, $1 million of capital that's going to deferred maintenance, is getting the ditch caught up to where it needs to be. And next year, you're gonna have that same $2 million to take on new capital, new projects. We're gonna have to do some refinement, because when I work in that extra 1%, that would be a negative number, right? So in the camp, they're up to 1.3 million right now. They're trying to be conservative, keep it there. You'll see that in September. So there's about $400,000 we're gonna have to, probably reduce from the camp, some of this capital to make it all work out.
That interest really changes that debt service.
What's that?
That interest rate really changes that.
Yeah,
debt service.
Yeah. Well, it's interest and principal too, though, right?
Yeah.
So before we're just paying.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I heard today on the way up here, the T-bills were going from 4 to 5%, like almost overnight, because they released the federal deficit is $40 trillion. Yeah. So, yeah, so I, don't hold to that 4%. So then just looking at the file, the consensus, so I'm gonna get my little animation of this, all right, so. Again, last year we had to talk about, an abatement, that's all gone, we don't have to worry about it. But we do have to have, decision on that levy, so we're ready for in September with an ordinance to pass on the property tax levy. So the 3% economic wage increase, non-personal costs of 3%, it sounds like you guys are all on board with that. And then capital spending at 1.5 with the asterisks around that to be give or take. And then the big thing is, last year we were saying, a net reserve spend of 1.9 million, you can go back a decade and we're showing some reserve spend, there's gonna be no net reserve spend, so. Hopefully not for the next many years. That's it.
So what we're looking for, obviously, you're getting this for the first blush. We need to prepare the ordinance. This is within planning. Obviously, we'll begin to prepare the budget and you'll have that back in front of you, but the levy will have to go forward. And if there's any of these assumptions that there's not concurrence with, we need some direction so we can tool. But there's still a ways on the runway yet, for things with to make changes along the way. But I think as Andy's done very well in navigating as his board year over year to get us to a place.
You'll have some modeling for PTEL.
Well, I mean, right now, the max we get is at 3.5% to 400,000. But if you back up and you look at after we fund the camp and after we fund the capital, you get $11,000. And really, we're in a deficit because as soon as I add on an additional 1% for wage, right? So if we don't take the full PTEL, then we're gonna be reducing some of the capital or some of the camp even further. Which we can do, but that's how you start getting backed up and over, if you did that. If we don't take a substantial portion of it each year, within 4 or 5 years, you could almost be right back to part of the referendum.
Any questions?
You're good at explaining all of this.
Thanks.
Yeah, because he's done. All right, site naming.
Oh, yeah, that's me. This is applause worthy. All right, so on the board packet, there's gonna be 2 items that are associated with the site naming project. And this is something that a task of a larger project that I want to do for some time because of some inconsistencies in names. And as we track our data over time, it just creates downstream problems. It also has safety concerns and just efficiencies when you're not naming everything the same throughout the district. So we printed out this, yes, I think everyone's looking at the Excel printout here just because on the session lab, it's difficult to see. But the middle columns there, where you have site name official, site name website, site name admin, site name LPNR, that just kind of shows some of those discrepancies that I talked about. And this kind of came to forefront when we were starting off the comprehensive planning and we were communicating what the site names were. And the Upland was as confused as anybody. And we said, okay, if we're gonna go forward with this plan, we at least need to do this task of this larger project that we have that I call the site parcels project. I do need to thank the team. We've been at this since March, and I personally thought it'd go a lot faster, but actually had a site name recommended, the Memorial Game Power Trail, so that was tell you something. The project. But anyway. Anyways, what we wanted to do was show all the sites so that at this point in time, if the board passes it, we'll have a baseline. So at this point moving forward, there are names that haven't passed by past boards, and those are identified where you have the yes, where there's a master planning process, and we went through the official naming process. We also used the executive administrative file that was semi-official. We also took a look at every parcel that was acquired as we went through this effort and found where we had some obligations for naming. So you'll see a couple in here that legally needed to be named. If you look at Lake Elizabeth, we're sorry about that one. But it's on the second page. You can see in the middle, the issues, the discrepancies there, but based on some acquisitions that took place, it legally needs to be named Elizabeth Lake Nature Preserve, Varga Archaeological Site Conservation Area. So we didn't think it would be worth time going through every single one on the landscape, but this list is pretty exhaustive and provides on the notes component some of the issues that there was or some of the constraints that there was. But if the board has any specific site or concern about a name that's being proposed, we certainly can provide a graphic before the next meeting or at the next meeting and explain what we're talking about on the real estate. And then to make it really easy, there should be like just a one pager. And that shows all of the official names that we're recommending. And it's broken up into 3 categories. The first category would be a conservation area, so ecological preserve type of site. And the second category is our trails. So we have some trails that will actually go through the ecological corridor. So like Prairie Trail is a good example. It goes through multiple conservation areas. We decided to keep those individual sites. And then the last one is essentially other and conservation easements. So the district has taken some conservation easements on that aren't necessarily associated with a larger conservation area. We thought those would be best named by the actual easement type. So conservation easement is the last category. With that high level overview, are there any questions or explanations that you would like to see on any of those things?
Are we gonna have to change signage and anything?
Yes, so there are going to be some implications. For the most part, we try to stay as consistent as possible. We also have kind of improved some of our other names. So at one point in time, we had the sites Hickory Grove Highlands, Hickory Grove, what's the other one? Riverfront. And now those are going to be Hickory Grove Conservation Area. They're proposed to be Hickory Grove Conservation Area with the riverfront access and the other name access, Highlands access. And then that's how we would move forward, is to have accesses. So from the safety component, Glacial Park, Pioneer Road, entrance, stuff like that. So we use the road entrance as the access, and that'll help communicate where somebody is. Instead of just Glacial Park massively.
Overall, when we went to our new branding, that was back in 2010 too, and we were very conscientious. And so the site, the signage that's used, it's not, a lot of our stuff is digital on our maps and things, so there's not a large, cost to make those changes, but still aligned.
And if I can add, there's only, I think, 2 or 3 total that we would need to actually change signs on. So many of those
are not public, they don't have public access points. They're not open to the public currently. So there's only 2 or 3. Napier is one. The Peter J. Exner is the other, and I think High Point or Highlands, Hickory Grove would be the other.
And then the other thing I'll just, for board members that are newer to our naming process, maybe into the process on the new ones, but everything was designed after geological type natural features versus after individual. So unless there was something very specific on the acquisition that required it to be named.
Yeah, quick question. I had thought said we have 35 conservation areas and it says 42. Did we pick up an additional 7 or?
No, what was the 35?
When we say 35, it's open to the public. So we have 35 sites that we consider open to the public.
Okay.
So this is naming those that are also not open to the public.
Naming everything.
Everything.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
that's helpful. That's
Yeah.
something that's not open.
Absolutely.
And then
And do those, I'm sorry, Gabe, and do those roll up into the regional trail conservation areas, those 4? So do these?
no, the regional trails are different. So those are their own site.
Okay.
The only caveat there is the real estate associated with the Hum corridor
Yeah.
is larger than the Hum trail. So the recommendation, this is one that I think we actually got from the Powers Memorial Trail,
Yeah.
was real estate would be Hum Prairie Conservation Area, and then the trail would be named either Hum Trail, or if there was an effort where we wanted to rename it, you could do it at that point in time. But the district, as you know, owns a lot of land outside of where the actual recreational trail.
So I got it. So we have 35 open, and we have another 7 closed. And then in addition to that, we have, where do these other 4 sit?
Those are part of the
Trail.
35. When we
Those are
count
part
the
of the
35,
35.
we count the regional trails as sites.
I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It should be more than 7 that are not.
They're
open.
right. Yeah, I'm not certain there, but they're 35 is they include the regional trails as their own sites.
Thank you.
And then the other request, separate items. So this is the first item. The second one is to initiate the naming process for 2 sites. So there's 4 sites that currently do not have a recommendation from staff. 2 of those, we would like to begin the process of soliciting names to officially name. The first one is the recent acquisition of the Bigfoot Woods Folk Legacy project. And then the second one that we thought would be appropriate, and it's probably best to do 2 at a time instead of all 4, would be the real estate associated with the property where the Wildlife Resource Center is. Internally, we call it Grunstrom Woods right now, but we would also like to get names from the public and the process that's outlined in the policy to name those 2 sites.
The Lake in the Hills fan, aren't there 2 Lake in the Hills fan? You have the big one over by the airport, then the one by Red Tail Golf Course. Those both called Lake in the Hills.
Red Tail Golf Course.
I'm sorry?
Dishwalking.
Is that the one that's by the? The one that's by hole number 14 in Red Tail?
Red Tail, and then it's Kishwaukee Feathers in there, and I think rural or I something else over there. But that's
Non-district site.
not this district. A lot of golf balls.
Okay, thank you, Joel. Thank you. All right, looks good. If we change, if there's no title changes, we have to go back to the paperwork and all that, and then would.
No.
Okay.
No, this is good, and this helps with the accreditation and all the pieces that we said, so this will be on your.
Is Camp Algonquin here?
So Camp Algonquin is part of Fox Club.
Oh,
Yeah.
and it's okay.
All right, executive director's report.
All
Elizabeth.
right, few things to share with you, and I'll be brief because we have a full meeting with executive session this evening. So hike with Mike this Saturday, right before the meeting, heard from Chairman, so he unfortunately will not be able to join us on Saturday at Stickney Run. So I believe we're gonna hopefully, our liaison and county board chairman and past trustee is going to lead the hike for us. It's technique, so 10 o'clock if you're interested, but it is Kim Compton who is going to lead the hike for us. Says it's kind of mosquito-y, so wear long pants and or your bug spray on before you come out, but I'd love to welcome you there. Landscapes is out for the fall, so a good viewing of all the activities that are up and forthcoming. Great Outdoor Beer Trail tickets are on sale. Right, we have a last Friday concert that's ongoing. Just a lot of activity. So everybody's wrapping up for the season. Just a shout out to the team. And we're busy. We'll move in transition August into autumn. A lot of activities. That are
Great cover on that. That's all that is. That's a cool picture.
Yes, I want to thank John. I mean, obviously, he's had a lot. Tonight's his last meeting. Thank you, John, for your service and different on having him here, joining us throughout every day and but ultimately here. So you're the best and won't get too far. He's done an excellent job to get his position to transition to everything. So I really do appreciate that. And let's see here, and then for the September meeting, so just to verify, there's some confusion here. CMAP, they have their visioning planning meetings and they happen to select McHenry County on the 22nd, which was the night of our board meeting at Richardson Farm. And of course, it's about conservation and development and all of that. So really important that we are present for that. So we are canceling our meeting on the 22nd, and we'll be going after speaking with our board president to one mega meeting on the cow. So we're going to put everything together, and that was already planning, just like tonight's not a mega meeting. It is. There's a lot going on. We're busy. We're busy. So thank you for that. But we're going to make one meeting. We're going to have the foundation join us. We're going to do that workshop briefly. And then we'll get into specifically the one, everything that we need to do. So just know free, it's all going to be positioned one night. And so one night
On the 17th.
on the cow, on the committee of the whole on a Thursday evening. Yeah. So hopefully we have a quorum and attendance. It'll be the levy night that we need to pass, which is a key night. And I'm not here. And Heather's not here.
Well, I think we'll have a quorum, but the point was rather than adding another date to your calendars, let's just, pack it on. We did that once before and it seemed pretty successful. So I should bring sandwiches or something in. I know it's a long meeting.
Food for substitute, we can do that. We can make sure we're good. More than cake, we'll have something. The protein.
It's just a long day for people that, coming from work and everything.
Yeah, be happy to do that.
Do you not need to know who's gonna be attending the other meeting at Richardson's?
I'm gonna do a poll. I've heard several that said, yes, I would go. So please let me know because I will RSVP. So I believe, at one point, Bonnie was interested. Or I don't know if you're back.
Yeah.
And Nora was interested, so, and then McCog is in Marengo, this month. Bonnie did say that she was interested in attending that, if there was somebody else, but otherwise she's got that covered. That's what.
All right.
Oh, in the waterfall.
Oh, in the water forum, yes, September 19th, 16th.
Yeah.
MCC, not to be missed. And you'll start to get a lot of information from me this fall is environmental conservation. Everybody has an event and we go and we start our routine. So you'll be hearing to say, please join us at the table for connecting with our conservation.
All right. And trustee reports.
Yes, Heather and I went to the IAPD in South Barrington on August 11th. It was a leadership workshop for commissioners, board members about governance and going through different issues with the Park District statutes. It was kind of like they broke us out into groups, round tables, and then Peter and Jason Anselman, their GC, and some others would come around. There was an attorney from Ansel Glick. They would just kind of ask questions, kind of like, how does your board operate? Some of the nuances. Are you following these rules, Robert's rules, the Open Meetings Act? So I just want to say we have a model board. We are so collaborative. We follow the rules. We do everything. Seriously, I mean, I heard horror stories. I'm not going to name our commissioners because
some of them are here in McHenry County, but I got an earful of what goes on at their meetings.
Oh.
How board members literally shout at each other, use profanity, walk out. During public comment, a board member got up and started giving a public comment against the board. It was just eye-opening and, but I truly enjoyed it. We learned a lot and I'll let Heather speak to.
You had a livelier table than I. I didn't get it either. But it was a very well run event, very good night,
Well, good, glad you enjoyed it, so you got a lot of.
Yes. I told that commissioner, I said, I'm gonna go to one of one of the municipalities here in McHenry County. I said, I'm gonna go to the next meeting. He's like, please do, because it's very lively.
Anything else? All right, the Conservation Foundation, well represented this evening.
Yes.
Yes, we're all here. Just a few updates. First off, our donor bison tour continues on Saturday, August 29th. Totally full, just like that, because it's the bison. So everybody was real excited about that. So that's going on then. It's a late afternoon, evening one, so it's gonna be a little different. We are working in partnership with TLC to sell a portion of our carbon credits. We co-tabled on Sunday, just a couple days ago, Planet Palooza with the district. It's at the table with Abby Winters and her name's Alicia. She's seasonal, and that went very well. And we should have a little drum roll for this, because this is very excellent. We filled our open admin support position, and Kristen Thompson will be starting on September 1st. Okay. So,
Sean, I.
and that's all I have, so thank you.
All right. And thank you for all you do. All right. Are there any public comments?
I don't see anybody.
All right.
No hands.
Can I have a motion to go into executive session pursuant to 2C2? Motion on executive session.
I'll second.
We need to thank the
Yeah,
reasons.
2C5 for purchase land / lease or real property, 2C11 probable pending legislation, and 2C21 review of closed session minutes of the Open Meetings Act 5 Hill 120/1. That's done.
Hey, Treasurer Zimmerman.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, one moment. Lloyd, did you read the very first one listed, or did you start at 2C5?
Oh.
I thought, well, I'll do it again. Motion to go into executive session pursuant to 2C2.
Oh, you did,
2C5.
okay,
Yeah, okay.
yes, sorry.
No
That's
problem.
okay. Treasurer Zimmerman.
Yeah.
Secretary Zeller.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Vice President Wazor.
Yes.
And President Everard.
Yes. All right, we adjourn for executive session.
And we're back here at 8:27.
Do a roll call. President Everard.
Here, right? Yeah, present.
Vice President Wazor.
Here.
Treasurer Zimmerman.
Present.
Secretary Zeller.
Yeah,
Trustee Brady. Here. Everyone's back.
Everyone roll over.
We're done. I mean, if you
Oh,
like.
wait, we need a motion. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Go ahead. Second.
Wait, no. You go.
I'm entertaining a motion to adjourn. Second.
No,
No, I need a motion.
First, you
I need a motion. Stop second. No, I'm looking, I need a motion.
Oh, I'll make the motion.
All right. We're all with me.
Second.
Second by mine, all right.
Okay, Secretary Zeller. Of course, yes. Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Vice President Wazor.
Yes.
Treasurer Zimmerman.
Yay.
And President Everard.
Thank you for staying so long. We are adjourned.